Above the Dutch countryside near Eindhoven on September 17, 1944, something extraordinary was unfolding at 14,000 feet. Operation Market Garden had launched the largest airborne assault in military history, and protecting those vulnerable paratroopers were squadrons of P-47 Thunderbolts. These American fighters weren't just flying cover, they were hauling 2,500 pounds of bombs beneath their wings, a payload representing roughly half of what a B-17 flying fortress typically carried on its long-range missions. For the Luftwaffe pilots scrambling to meet this threat, the reality confronting them defied everything they thought they understood about aerial combat. The bulky American fighter they'd written off as overly heavy and unsuited for dogfighting had transformed into something that shouldn't have been possible. Here was a single-seat, single-engine aircraft capable of fighting its way deep into enemy territory, unleashing the destructive power of a light bomber, and then battling its way back home. This wasn't just a tactical adjustment, it was a complete reimagining of what a fighter aircraft could be. The metamorphosis of the P-47 from straightforward interceptor into the European theatre's most formidable fighter bomber would reshape tactical doctrine, hasten the Wehrmacht's disintegration, and permanently alter how military aviation understood the possibilities of air power. American industrial thinking had produced not merely a fighter, not simply a bomber, but an entirely new category of warplane. A universal combat platform capable of executing any mission with lethal efficiency. When the P-47 Thunderbolt first entered the fighting in April 1943, it seemed to validate every criticism Luftwaffe intelligence had leveled against American aircraft philosophy, powerful and robust certainly, but lacking the refined touch of German aeronautical engineering. The 4th Fighter Group's inaugural combat sortie on April 8, 1943, gave German technical analysts their first detailed look at this new adversary, and their assessments fell along predictable lines. The specifications alone appeared to confirm mediocrity. At 10,000 pounds empty weight, the Thunderbolt tipped the scales at twice what a Messerschmitt Bf-109G weighed. Propelling this massive airframe was the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, an 18-cylinder radial engine generating 2,000 horsepower in early versions, with later iterations pushing that figure to 2,300 and eventually 2,800 horsepower. The aircraft itself looked like it had been conceived by designers completely unfamiliar with aerodynamic refinement. Early combat results seemed to justify German skepticism. The P-47's initial combat radius barely exceeded 125 miles, severely constraining its usefulness as a bomber escort. Its rate of climb couldn't match German fighters, and when forced into turning engagements at medium altitudes, both the Focke-Wulf 190 and Bf-109 held distinct advantages. Luftwaffe pilots rapidly developed tactics exploiting these limitations, drawing the heavy American fighters into turning fights or vertical maneuvers where mass became a critical disadvantage. What German technical evaluators completely missed was that they were witnessing a formidable weapon system in its earliest stages, designed with capabilities that wouldn't reach full exploitation for another year. The rugged construction that added weight, built around steel tubing and extensive armor plating, also enabled the aircraft to sustain catastrophic damage and carry extraordinary external loads. Those wing pylons, initially conceived for drop tanks extending operational range, had been engineered to support up to 2,500 pounds of ordnance, a burden that would have structurally failed most contemporary fighters. The transformation didn't begin with strategic vision, but with practical field adaptation. Throughout 1943, P-47 pilots returning from escort missions started attacking targets of opportunity: railway locomotives, vehicle convoys, fuel storage facilities. The outcomes proved immediately encouraging. 8 Browning M 2.50 caliber machine guns, each cycling 800 rounds per minute, could deliver 12.7 pounds of lead every second, sufficient to penetrate a locomotive boiler or obliterate a convoy of trucks. Official bomb-carrying modifications arrived in November 1943. Engineers fitted bomb shackles rated for 500-pound munitions on belly and wing mounting points. The 62nd Fighter Squadron conducted the first authorized P-47 bombing operation on November 25, 1943, striking the Luftwaffe airfield at Saint-Omer, France. 8 Thunderbolts, each loaded with two 250-pound bombs, successfully demolished 2 hangars and damaged 5 parked aircraft. The winter months spanning 1943 to 1944 saw Republic Aviation and USAAF technical services dramatically accelerate the P-47's evolution. Engineers strengthened wing spars to withstand asymmetric loading when bombs dropped from only one station. They designed new electrical systems for bomb release mechanisms functioning equally well at 30,000 feet or treetop altitude. They created specialized gun sights, including the K-14 computing gun sight capable of calculating bombing angles for both dive and glide attacks. By early 1944, the modifications had progressed far beyond simple bomb racks. M8 4.5-inch rockets, each delivering the explosive impact of a 105mm artillery shell, provided the P-47 with firepower rivaling a naval destroyer. A single Thunderbolt could carry 10 rockets plus 2 1,000-pound bombs, more explosive power than many twin-engine bombers had carried earlier in the conflict. D-Day on June 6, 1944, marked the point when the Luftwaffe fully comprehended what the P-47 had evolved into. Throughout that single day, P-47s executed 1,985 sorties, releasing 525 tons of bombs and expending 135,000 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition. They obliterated 86 locomotives, 507 motor vehicles, 38 gun emplacements, and 17 fuel storage sites. The aircraft German intelligence had categorized as a mediocre high-altitude interceptor had become tactical air power's workhorse. Gunther Roll, among history's highest-scoring aces, with 275 confirmed victories, repeatedly encountered P-47s throughout 1944. In a 1996 interview with HistoryNet, he remembered, "The P-47, which, as you know, shot me down, we knew right away. It had tremendous diving speed and could run up to 1,400 kilometers per hour, where the Bf-109 was limited to 1,000 kilometers per hour. I learned this quickly when they chased me, and I could do nothing else." On May 12, 1944, Rawl was shot down by the 56th Fighter Group's P-47s, losing his left thumb during the engagement. His damaged flying glove now resides at the National Air and Space Museum. Following the war, Rawl accumulated approximately 300 hours flying captured P-47s at the German Fighter Leaders School, evaluating Allied aircraft capabilities. The P-47's capacity to instantly transition from bomber to fighter created an unsolvable tactical dilemma for the Luftwaffe. German fighters dispatched to intercept what appeared to be vulnerable fighter bombers suddenly found themselves in lethal combat against aircraft that had simply jettisoned their bombs and reverted to pure fighters possessing superior firepower and remarkable survivability. The mathematics of the P-47's payload capacity created logistical impossibilities for German forces. A standard P-47 D-25 could accommodate various bomb configurations: 2 1,000-pound bombs, 3 500-pound bombs, or combinations of bombs and rockets totaling 2,500 pounds. This represented 62.5% of a B-17's typical 4,000-pound operational load on long-range missions, justifying the reasonable approximation of half the Flying Fortress's bomb load. 16 P-47s operating as a squadron could deliver 32,000 pounds of bombs, equivalent to 8 B-17 operating at typical combat loads. But unlike heavy bombers flying from England perhaps twice weekly, P-47s could execute 3 missions daily from forward airfields. A single P-47 squadron could theoretically deliver more tonnage in one day than a heavy bomber squadron delivered across an entire week. The efficiency differential was striking. One P-47 carrying two 500-pound bombs required one pilot and minimal ground support. One B-17 hauling 4,000 pounds of bombs required 10 aircrew plus specialised ground personnel. The fighter bomber delivered substantial destructive power with a fraction of the manpower investment. August 1944 brought the P-47's most devastating demonstration of fighter-bomber effectiveness during the Falaise pocket operation. As German forces attempted escaping encirclement between August 12th and 21st, they endured continuous attack from P-47s operating in shifts from dawn through dusk. The authenticated kill claims from Falaise, verified through ground reconnaissance, included August 13th, 112 tanks confirmed destroyed. August 14th, 287 motor vehicles confirmed destroyed. August 15th, 42 locomotives confirmed destroyed. August 16th, 89 horse-drawn vehicles destroyed. The 9th Air Force's P-47 groups operated on a relay system, fresh squadrons arriving as others departed to rearm and refuel. This maintained constant pressure on German forces attempting any daylight movement. Post-battle analysis revealed approximately one-third of all German vehicles destroyed in the pocket were victims of P-47 attacks. The Thunderbolt's transformation unlocked another capability: precision bridge destruction using 1,000-pound bombs. The 56th Fighter Group developed techniques for destroying Rhine bridges that had survived heavy bomber attacks. 8 P-47s could deliver bombs with 50-foot accuracy in 60-degree dives, far exceeding the precision of high-altitude heavy bombers fortunate to strike within 1,000 feet of their aim point. The deployment of the Me-262 jet fighter in early 1945 should have changed everything. With a 100-mile-per-hour speed advantage over P-47s, the jets appeared immune to interception. But the P-47's evolution into a fighter bomber created an unexpected vulnerability for the jets. Me-262s required long concrete runways and consumed fuel at prodigious rates. Their bases became primary targets for P-47 fighter bombers. On March 21, 1945, the 365th Fighter Group's P-47s caught JG-7's Me-262s during takeoff from Leipheim Airfield. The jets, accelerating down the runway, couldn't maneuver or achieve the speed needed for escape. 8 Me-262s were destroyed within 5 minutes, more than the Luftwaffe could manufacture in a week. March 1945's Operation Clarion saw systematic destruction of the German transportation network by fighter bombers. P-47s received sector assignments with orders to destroy anything that moved or could potentially move. On March 22nd alone, P-47s claimed 89 locomotives destroyed, 1,026 rail cars destroyed, 155 motor vehicles destroyed, 17 bridges dropped, 93 rail cuts severing tracks. The P-47's transformation demanded continuous innovation. The P-47 D-25, introduced mid-1944, featured reinforced wings stressed for 3,000-pound external load, universal bomb shackles accepting British and American ordnance, zero-length rocket launchers reducing drag, improved oil cooling for extended low-altitude operations, paddle blade propellers for better acceleration, water injection boosting power to 2,800 horsepower, and K-14 computing gun sight for accurate bombing. Republic Aviation's Farmingdale and Evansville plants demonstrated remarkable production flexibility. Peak production reached 35 P-47s daily, with 28 major variants produced and 430 field modification kits developed. The plants maintained continuous production across 48 months without halting for redesign, a feat unmatched by any other fighter manufacturer. Transforming P-47 pilots from fighter specialists into multi-role combat aviators required revolutionary training approaches. The USAAF established programs requiring 200 flight hours minimum before combat, including 50 practice bombing runs, 20 rocket firing passes, 100 strafing runs, 40 hours instrument flying, and 30 hours formation flying. This comprehensive training contrasted sharply with late-war Luftwaffe pilot preparation, which had declined to just 110 flight hours before combat with no fighter-bomber training for fighter pilots. American pilots demonstrated competence in high-altitude escort, medium-altitude combat, low-level navigation, dive bombing, skip bombing, glide bombing, rocket firing, napalm delivery, and ground strafing, transitioning between roles as missions demanded. February 1945 saw napalm bombs introduced for P-47s. The 150-gallon drop tanks filled with jellied gasoline created weapons capable of incinerating entire city blocks or fortified positions. The 362nd Fighter Group first employed napalm operationally on February 14, 1945, against a Wehrmacht supply depot hidden in Reichswald Forest. 8 P-47s, each carrying one napalm bomb, created a firestorm visible from 20 miles, destroying 3 acres of supplies within minutes. March through May 1945 witnessed the P-47 at its evolutionary peak. The P-47M, capable of 470 miles per hour, entered service with performance matching early jets. The P-47N, designed for the Pacific, demonstrated 2,350-mile range carrying bombs, but tactical employment truly revolutionized warfare. P-47S operated as forward air controllers directing other aircraft, artillery spotters for ground forces, photo reconnaissance platforms, communication relays, psychological warfare platforms dropping leaflets, and emergency supply deliverers to surrounded units. The same aircraft type could perform 6 different mission types in a single day. The P-47's European theatre combat record stands as among aviation history's most successful. Total combat sorties, 546,000. Aircraft lost in combat, 3,499. Total aircraft lost all causes, 3,723. Loss rate per sortie, 0.7%. Air-to-air kill ratio, 4.6 to 1. Ordnance delivered. Bombs dropped, 132,000 tons. Rockets fired, 135,000. 50 caliber rounds, 119 million. Confirmed destruction in the European theatre. Enemy aircraft in air combat, 3,916. Enemy aircraft on ground, 3,202. Locomotives, 9,000. Railway cars, 86,000. Motor vehicles, 68,000. Armoured vehicles, 6,000. Horse-drawn vehicles, 60,000. The P-47's evolution fundamentally altered military strategy. Pre-war doctrine rigidly separated strategic and tactical air power. Heavy bombers for strategic targets, fighters for air superiority, attack aircraft for ground support. The P-47 merged these roles, achieving strategic effects through tactical means. The destruction of transportation infrastructure by P-47s accomplished what years of strategic bombing struggled to achieve. By April 1945, German forces couldn't move in daylight. Supply lines ceased functioning. Reinforcements couldn't reach the front. The tactical had become strategic through sheer accumulated effect. Strategic bombing survey analysis revealed fighter-bomber operations, primarily by P-47s, reduced German rail traffic by 75% in forward areas by March 1945. This transportation paralysis contributed more to German defeat than destruction of industrial targets by heavy bombers. The P-47's success forced fundamental changes in military doctrine. The U.S. Air Force's first doctrine manual in 1947 stated, "The artificial distinction between fighter and attack aircraft has been rendered obsolete. All fighters must be capable of ground attack. All attack aircraft must be capable of self-defense." This represented complete reversal of pre-war thinking. The 1935 Army Air Corps manual had stated, "Pursuit aviation's sole purpose is achieving air superiority through aerial combat. Diversion to other roles weakens this primary mission." The P-47 proved mission flexibility multiplied combat power. A fighter capable only of fighting was half as valuable as one that could fight and bomb. This lesson shaped every subsequent American fighter design. The P-47's concept proved so revolutionary it shaped post-war aircraft design globally. When the Korean War began in 1950, the P-47's direct descendants, F-84 Thunderjets and F-86 Sabres, configured as fighter bombers, dominated tactical air warfare. The multi-role fighter concept pioneered by the P-47 became standard for all subsequent combat aircraft development. The P-47 represented American industrial capability at its peak. The company's founder, Alexander Kartveli, had designed the aircraft with exceptional strength margins. The Army Air Forces requested a 6G capable aircraft. Kartveli built one stressed for 12G. They wanted 500-pound bomb capability. He provided structure for 2,000-pound loads. This over-engineering philosophy enabled the dramatic mission expansion without fundamental redesign. P-47S, leaving Republic's plants in 1945, incorporated hundreds of improvements from combat experience, yet production never stopped for major redesign. The production statistics reveal the industrial miracle: 48 months continuous production, 15,683 aircraft delivered, 28 major variants, 430 field modification kits, peak production of 35 aircraft daily, 2 plants operating simultaneously, cost reduction of 27% despite capability increases. The P-47 fighter bomber concept influenced every subsequent combat aircraft design. Direct descendants: F-84 Thunderjet, jet-powered continuation of P-47 concept. A 10 Thunderbolt II, named explicitly after P-47, carrying ground attack mission forward. F-105 Thunderchief, strategic fighter bomber extending P-47 philosophy. Conceptual inheritors: F-4 Phantom II, multi-role capability central to design. F-15 E-Strike Eagle, air superiority fighter evolved into strike aircraft. F-16 Fighting Falcon, designed from inception as multi-role platform. FA-18 Hornet, designation itself acknowledging dual fighter attack roles. Kartveli's engineering philosophy became doctrine: build strong, build adaptable, let operational requirements drive capability evolution. The comprehensive training program developed for P-47 fighter bomber pilots established standards still followed today. Modern fighter pilots train for air-to-air combat, air-to-ground attack, reconnaissance, and electronic warfare, a multi-role approach pioneered by P-47 squadrons. The 200-hour pre-combat training requirement for P-47 pilots became the baseline for post-war air forces globally. The emphasis on instrument flying, formation tactics, and weapons delivery accuracy established professional standards defining modern military aviation. Luftwaffe veterans' post-war assessments consistently identified the P-47 fighter bomber as a decisive factor in Germany's defeat. The authenticated testimony of Gunther Roll, who flew captured P-47s extensively after the war, provides crucial insight. In his 1996 HistoryNet interview, he praised the aircraft's comfort, reliability, and versatility, noting particularly that the engine had no oil leaks, unlike German aircraft. Statistical analysis supports veteran testimony. By war's end, the Luftwaffe could muster only about 100 operational fighters on any given day, not from lack of aircraft, but from lack of fuel, airfields, and logistics destroyed by P-47s. The fighter bomber had achieved what strategic bombing couldn't: complete paralysis of enemy operations. The P-47's fighter bomber capability provided extraordinary economic efficiency compared to traditional bombing. Cost per ton of bombs delivered: B-17 Flying Fortress, $28,000, B-24 Liberator, $24,000, P-47 Thunderbolt, $4,200. Crew losses per 100 tons delivered: B-17 8.5 aircrew, B-24 7.2 aircrew, P-47 0.9 pilots. Support requirements per ton delivered: B-17 47 ground personnel, P-47 8 ground personnel. The mathematics were undeniable. P-47S delivered destruction at 15% the cost and 10% the manpower investment of heavy bombers. The transformation of the P-47 from pure fighter to fighter bomber, carrying half a B-17's operational bomb load, represents more than tactical evolution. It embodies American military genius for pragmatic adaptation. The Luftwaffe never expected this transformation because it violated their fundamental understanding of specialized military equipment. German military doctrine emphasized perfection within narrow roles: the best fighter, the best bomber, the best attack aircraft. American doctrine, shaped by industrial pragmatism, emphasized adaptability and efficiency. The P-47 proved that in modern warfare, flexibility beats specialization. When Luftwaffe pilots encountered P-47s over Eindhoven on September 17, 1944, they faced not just an aircraft, but a revolution in military thinking. Those heavy, clumsy interceptors they'd dismissed in 1943 had become instruments of their destruction, not through superior performance in any single role, but through unprecedented versatility. The P-47's combat record in the European theatre from 1943 to 1945 stands as one of aviation history's most successful. Aircraft performance, maximum speed 433 miles per hour, P-47D, 470 miles per hour, P-47M. Combat radius 450 miles with drop tanks. Service ceiling 43,000 feet, maximum bomb load 2,500 pounds. Production excellence, total built 15,683, monthly peak 1,050 aircraft, cost reduction 27% over production run, variants produced 28, field modifications 430 plus. Combat effectiveness, sorties flown 546,000, loss rate 0.7% per sortie, kill ratio 4.6 to 1. Bombs dropped 132,000 tons, ground targets destroyed 224,000 plus. The story of how the Luftwaffe never expected P-47s to carry half a B-17's bomb load illuminates a profound truth about military innovation. The Germans, masters of specialized excellence, failed to anticipate that Americans would blur the lines between fighter and bomber, creating an aircraft excelling not through perfection in one role, but through competence in all roles. The P-47 Thunderbolt's evolution from interceptor to fighter bomber didn't just surprise the Luftwaffe, it revolutionized air warfare. Every modern combat aircraft flying today incorporates lessons learned from the P-47's transformation. The heavy fighter that couldn't turn with a Messerschmitt became the aircraft that helped turn the tide of World War II. In the end, the 7-ton fighter the Luftwaffe dismissed as too heavy to matter became the instrument of their destruction, not through superior performance, but through superior adaptability. The P-47 proved that in modern warfare, the winner isn't who flies the most specialized aircraft, but who adapts fastest to changing reality. The Luftwaffe never expected P-47 Thunderbolts to carry half a B-17's bomb load because such capability violated their fundamental understanding of air warfare. That failure of imagination cost them air superiority, mobility, and ultimately the war. The P-47's transformation from fighter to fighter bomber remains history's clearest example of how tactical adaptation can achieve strategic revolution, and how failure to recognize that revolution can doom even the most professional military force to devastating defeat.